All right. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out with us. Give me just a second. We're getting things squared away. For some reason, all my cam. There it goes. And Benny not being here has screwed up all my settings. I tried to get Uncle Manny to join us.
Yeah, how come we didn't join?
He's putting together a new bed. They got a new bed,
Yeah, Manny's a busy
right?
guy.
I love that guy.
I feel like that dude has stuff to do all the time.
Always.
He reminds me of like a Renaissance man. Like I
Oh
barely
my
know
god.
him, but he
He
feels like a Renaissance man,
he
like the modern Renaissance man.
he can do almost anything, which is great, which is fantastic. All right, let's
We
transition
got
in.
9 viewers here.
Nice. Oh, we have 9 viewers. That's great.
Oh, now five.
Now
Right
five.
after I
All
said
right.
that, everyone left. That was weird.
What's up, everyone? What's up, Mr. C?
What's up, man? I'm doing good. I'm sad to not see Benny in that third
Me
that
too.
third box to the left. It's sad.
It is sad. It's real sad. One. So I'm putting together the pictures because I was running behind. I'll say why here in just a sec. But why don't you tell the audience where Benny is while I put together the rest of our stories?
Benny's being a classic Florida man out on the boat with his pops,
Yeah.
drinking, doing other things.
You can
He's
tell his level
he's
of
been on the boat every day, dude. It's crazy.
his level of
Every day.
his level of commitment is suspect.
I'm wondering if he quit his
This
job
is
just to go on the boat with his
this
dad.
is this is what he sent us. He's like, if we do it at 9 o'clock, I'll be there. But if not, so it's just him on the boat. Just
Well,
he doesn't even send like a selfie. He just takes like a landscape picture of the water, and he expects us to be like, yeah, okay.
all right, man. We'll cancel. Well, dude, he waited so long, and he was chatting with me in another group chat about something else,
Right.
and I was like, Benny, dude, you got to respond. Like we're supposed to be on in 15 minutes.
It just sends this photo. I love it. I love it. What? Yeah. So I mean, listen. How many? Let's talk about these group chats. How many group chats are you in with people? Like, what are
Too
your
many,
really,
and all of them stem from Benny.
really?
Like, because we have all the same friends.
Right.
Like me and Benny have known each other since we were 8. So like every friend he's made or I've made, it's like a package deal where my friends that I've met have become his friends that he's met have become my friends, and that includes you. Like,
Right.
his relatives are like my relatives are like his relatives. It's a very like brotherly type thing.
Exactly.
So any group chat he's in, like if he's in a group chat with people that I don't even really need to necessarily be in that group chat, I'm just in it by proxy. So like I just and it frustrates my girlfriend because I'm in so many chats and my phone's just like constantly buzzing.
Oh
And
my gosh.
I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do. I have nothing to do with these chats, but I feel bad exiting them. I got to be polite.
You have an iPhone though, don't you? You have an iPhone?
Yeah. I just silenced it now, but
Okay.
that causes other problems because then
Because
I
then you
miss
never
calls and
respond.
shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, is your girlfriend like in any? Does she understand the idea of the group chat and like the pressure it puts on you
Yes,
to be on
but
it?
she's very confused about how tight me and like my guy friends are, I guess.
Right.
It's just very like I don't think it's very normal for because these guys have all been my friends since we were like 19, so we stay like pretty tight, pretty
Right.
close through
Right.
chat, like through texting. Uh, it can be annoying. I feel her pain.
Do you? And so everything is text. You guys like aren't like on a messenger app or anything like that.
Yeah. Everything's
Everything's
text
text.
and
That's
Call of Duty Warzone chat, pretty much. So
I need to hook up my. So I've been just doing like my house is getting to. You know how
dude,
when
you've
you,
been selling your
dude, my life,
everything.
It's I've been Marie Kondoing this shit. It has been phenomenal. It has been
Is it
absolutely great.
stressful or is it's nice to get rid of things and
It's really nice because all this stuff like I'm realizing you don't need so have you heard Marie Kondo, like have you heard like what
yes.
she does?
Yeah, we watched the whole series.
So I guess her thing is like take an item, and if it brings you joy, then keep it. If it doesn't, if you're like I don't need this in my life, then throw it away. Or if you say to yourself at that moment, this is something that I like, it brings me joy, put it aside and then come back to it 4 weeks later. And if you haven't used it, or like if you haven't put on a shirt in 6 months, then you don't need it. Get rid of it.
That's a better way to figure it out. Because I've looked at shirts. My girlfriend's maybe get rid of clothes, and it's like, oh, I might wear that someday though. Like I might need that for this one situation.
Right.
So it's like she pretty much Marie Kondo'd me and was like, hey, when's the last time you wore this? 5 years ago? Just get rid of it.
Well, I always make the excuse of, I'm going to get a t-shirt quilt made. And I'm gonna.
That's new. I haven't heard that one. That's interesting.
So now I'm up to like 15 quilts. That's my problem. I'm up to all these quilts that are just in boxes out in the garage. Today was my garage day where I was going through all my bins. I've got a bunch of storage bins and boxes, and I wanted to say to myself, okay, what can I throw away now? What am I going to need? Things like that, and then. And so I found all these t-shirt boxes on top of already as part of the move I've been putting together. So I think I'm up to like 5 quilts.
Have you found that like a certain website's better for selling things than others? I know you've been using Facebook Marketplace a lot.
Facebook Marketplace and OfferUp are my 2 go-tos.
OfferUp. Okay.
I tried to use Let Go, but apparently no one uses Let Go anymore.
Yeah, that kind of fizzled out real quick, didn't it?
It really did, yeah. So most of it is all through OfferUp. My big items, like my cars, I'm trying to sell 76 El Camino, and my dad's boat, I put on Craigslist. Because I still think that there's a use for Craigslist in those particular cases. But when it comes to like small stuff like lamps, clocks, vases, I don't need any of that. That can all go to Facebook Marketplace. But I've been doing really well. I sold my motorcycle yesterday for like $1,300, and it had a leak.
Are you having to research all of these things like Blue Book style, just figuring out how much they cost?
For the big items, yeah. Some of the smaller items, I'm just like, what would I pay for this? And so far, I've been pretty good. Maybe I missed my calling as a I don't know a pricer. What do people call themselves?
You should have been a what are those people called that go around and like auction things? They like go to garages and shit, and like you should have done that.
I should have do that, yeah. But yeah, no, it's been good. It's been good.
Your life's you've had quite like a life change in the past.
It's been good.
5 months. You know?
Like, I mean,
your routine has changed, I bet, a lot from when you were in Phoenix.
It really has, which is nice. I mean, we did Forrest Gump for Shat the Movies, and you remember Forrest Gump. You've watched Forrest Gump, right?
Oh, dude. That was like our family movie. Yeah.
Right. So most people think of Forrest Gump, they think of like all the historical moments. They think of all the times on him hanging out with all the presidents and all that stuff in Vietnam. Really, the point I think of the movie, and I said this on the podcast, I think the point of the movie is how you face, like in the face of adversity, how do you handle yourself? So in the last 5 months, we've had a global pandemic. I lost my job. My mom is battling cancer for the 3rd time now. I'm faced with a move. My girlfriend and I just broke up as a result of that. She's having the same issues where, her life is in flux, and we came to the conclusion that while we would love to stay together, I don't think I can be the right boyfriend that she deserves because I need to figure out myself. And I think she needs to figure out herself. And the decision was, well, do we do this together or do we do this apart? And I thought, for me, what I need is I can't give her all the attention that she's going to deserve. When I'm in Florida, I need to figure out stuff. You and I and Benny are talking about going into business together. I need to see my family. I see my mom. I don't know if this is the right time to have a committed relationship or,
Sure.
How
did she take that? That's a mature way to end things. And that's always tough. So
it was very tough.
Was she understanding or?
She was understanding, but it still hurt. And I even threw out, and you tell me if you agree with this or not, because I talked to Big D about this, and his suggestion was, why not put her stuff in storage, like get up one of those pods, like where they'll bring storage, do one of the pods, and then have you move out to Florida, and then we hang out for 30, 40 days. We do a trial out there, and if she likes it and we're good, then she stays, and we bring the pod out. Because I think with the pod you get like 3 months of storage, and she was not amenable to that idea. She wanted, and so that was where we landed. And I think it was very mature. She's like, right now I'm going to need some space to figure things out. And I said, I can totally understand that, but you know, I don't want you to hate me. I don't want you to hate myself. This is a situation where I still like her. I still love her. I still want to be with her. But you know, sometimes in your lives you have to, your paths diverge, and it's one of those, and it's unfortunate.
Yeah. I think a lot, it's tough relationships, but like someone told me a long time ago, I can't remember who it was, or if it was like something I read, but sometimes relationships just serve their time and run their course, and like there's reasons for them, and they end, and that's okay. Like it's not every relationship's meant to last forever, you know, and that's completely normal. I think people get too hung up on like, oh, if I'm in this relationship, and it ends and like we failed, but that's not necessarily true. Like
no.
You'll both learn a lot from the time you were together, and it'll help you in your next relationship.
Absolutely. And Kelly's an amazing girl. I've talked a lot about on the podcast. We went to Oktoberfest together. We traveled a lot together. We quarantined together. She was a saint. We did Whole30 together. So the unfortunate situation is, again, when, you know, faced in a time like this, I think she was probably looking for something that I couldn't give her right now, and I wanted to be fair to her.
Right. And that's a mature decision. I mean, that couldn't have been easy for you to do that. You know, you don't want to see her hurt, right?
I know. I don't. I really don't. Because she deserves the best. I mean, everyone does. But I'll tell you this. By the way, I want to welcome everyone who's here. We got 13 viewers. Karen Wu, always. She's our girl. Cheezik, Raf Be Crazy, Lacustis, and Karen Wu. Yeah. Kelly and I. This is recent, so this happened in the last week. So. Kelly and I, we decided that I'm going to be moving to Florida alone. She's going to figure it out. But here's the cool thing. Her house, and I think I posted stuff like when we were in quarantine together, her house is dope. So she lives in Chandler, which is a suburb of Phoenix.
I know Chandler.
You know Chandler. Oh, God, yeah. I forget. Your mom
very suburban. Yeah, the most suburbia area.
Oh, my God. It is like super suburbia.
It's just suburbia. Like, it's suburbia and a bunch of chain restaurants.
Yeah. Well, she had this dope house. So 4-bedroom house. Her pool, I'll send you pictures of it. Her pool had waterfalls. She had a jacuzzi out there. It was just sick. So during quarantine, you know, we both didn't have jobs. So we were like eating healthy, hanging out, playing some video games, and then we could hang out at the pool. And it was amazing. She put her house on the market. So she was really diligent when I was in Florida about packing up boxes. She decided she's going to put her house on the market. I think I talked about this, where she had a job. They told her, hey, hang on for 3 months. And then the Thursday before she was going to start, they pulled the job from her because of COVID.
Yikes. So, yeah, you told me about that. So that's awful.
That put her in the mindset of like, I just need to get out of Arizona. So she does all this stuff. She gets her house in fantastic shape. Miley, her dog, comes over and is hanging out with me when I got back. She put her house on the market she put her house on Saturday, her house went on the market at 1 p.m. She had 4 showings that day, 2 offers, 5 showings on Sunday. She just accepted an offer on Sunday, $15,000 above her listing price.
Real estate's good. Real estate's good.
In 24 hours. So
that's incredible.
Crazy. So she's walking out with a nice little nest egg. So I was like, hey, is it too late? Did I make a mistake?
No.
Can I just live off of you for a while?
Is it worth $15,000?
Yeah.
Cheezik wants to know if you're happier in Florida.
Who does?
Raj.
Who's this?
Cheezik wants to know if you're happier in Florida.
Yeah. So the last time I was in Florida, you and I and Benny, we hung out. I got to see my family, my sister, all my cousins and my relatives that are in my little circle. And I think it's a different type of happier. I will say this. I feel more at home when I'm in Florida now versus Arizona. And for a very long time, I've been out here almost 10 years. Arizona felt like home. And now I've got so many friends that are either having kids or moving away, or having kids and moving away. and, you know, just getting out of a relationship, I had to think to myself, what is keeping me here? Why am I still here? Why not, you know, again, hopefully mom is watching this. Why not be home? Why not spend, you know, I did the out of state thing for 10 years. Why not go back home, reestablish those close relationships with my family? You just said it yourself. Like, you're part of our family. And I think our family is pretty cool. I think they're pretty awesome.
Great.
So why not hang out with them? And, you know, my mom is the strongest person I've ever known in my life, and she's battling right now. So
isn't it interesting how things work out like that? How you happen to have to move back for terrible circumstances, but now you're here and it's a good time for you to be here.
It'll be a good time. It's a transitional period.
I mean, especially, because your mom lives here, right, Raj?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, what better time to be like, hey, I served my time out of the state I grew up in. It's time to come back than when your mom's sick. So
Exactly. So it'll be nice because I'm closer to you. I'm closer to all my really close friends. You talk about the group texts. Kelly always makes fun of me, or actually all my any relationship I've always been in has always thought that Big D's and I's relationship was a little bit over the top. You know what I mean? So I was always trying to explain them. And I've talked about this before. If you had to see our text messages and you didn't know the context of our friendship, you would think that we were, romantically involved. And then just like our inside jokes that we go back and forth with one another is just ludicrous. So
bromances are in, man. That's everything right now.
Exactly.
Because I think the stereotype is usually like the females are the ones that are like in these crazy group chats, right? Like, I think it's
more the men. I honestly,
but now it's more the men. I think the gender roles have come together, and now it's not there is no gender role now when it comes to that.
Now. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Karen Wu asks, are all of us actually related? So Benny and I are blood related. C has been Benny's best friend since he was a child, so I've known C for a very long time. Big D and I are like brothers. So yeah, I think we're kind of related. Yeah.
I went on a cruise with Big D, so that means we're brothers. Yeah.
When you've spent time at sea together, I think that's what happens. That's what happens. I've tried to get Big D to join the Florida Man, but he has a job that if it was ever found out, and I keep telling him this, we don't talk bad about Florida. Like, this show is the love and the absurdity of the Florida, but I think he's worried that if it ever got out at his job that he did something related to the Florida Man, that it could be negatively impacted his job. So
it's understandable.
It would still be fun, but I am looking forward because we've got a couple of Shat the Movie reviews that I've invited you and Benny to be on. So I'm looking forward to that.
That'll be fun.
That'll be with Big D as well.
And I haven't got to do a review yet, which is like,
I know
it's a different type of podcast. I mean,
it's a different type of podcast, and you're a filmmaker. And so like the film that we've slotted you for, I think makes a lot of sense because in a lot of ways that film transformed filmmaking, I think, for the better and for the worse.
It's also widely known as the least favorite of the fans of the whole series.
Well, I think
I'm glad you invited me though, Raj, because I never agreed with that. I always thought that particular movie was one of the better ones of the series. So
Karen Wu asks, what is the movie? Oh, Jung, my mom is, so by the way, for those in the chat, my mom is Jung Deb. Thank you, Mom. I'm really excited to be closer to you. Karen Wu, the movie is The Phantom Menace, which it just sneaked in because it was released in 1999. And I thought Mr. C would be a great guest for it because, number one, he was a kid when this movie, like, he was, I guess, the target age that George Lucas keeps saying he made the movie for. So you have a different opinion than Big D and I had, who grew up with the originals. And we looked at that like we were extremely disappointed. Like, I remember covering my face because it was so uncomfortable. So
which one? The first one?
The Phantom Menace, being in there, like, it was like when I went and saw the Crystal Skull dressed up as Indiana Jones.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting because when I saw episode 1, I did not, and I was a kid, so like it worked, I guess, if his marketing decision was to gear it towards younger people. Right. When I watched the first one, I was like, this is dope. I mean, I thought like there were characters that carried that movie.
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm excited to be on that. That's gonna be fun.
When's the last time you watched it?
So that's what I was gonna say. It's gonna be weird because well, even when I watch the originals, I'm like, oh, these aren't as good as I remember them. Like the lightsaber fight between Vader and Obi-Wan in in episode 6 or episode 4 is like,
yeah, it's just
so bad.
Kind of
like,
old men just hopping towards each
like,
other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really bad. But if you keep in mind that like when it was made, you have to kind of put yourself back in the place. I mean, those were revolutionary movies, like revolutionary films. Like they changed the film industry for.
So Karen Wu wants to know what you think of Jar Jar. Like, what was your opinion like growing up? Because you said a couple characters carried that.
Man, my opinion's tainted because like I've watched a lot of like fan criticisms of the movies, and I know everyone hates Jar Jar. I mean, when I was a kid, I didn't mind him. He was like comedic relief. That's how I viewed him. He was like the Joker character in the story arc where every movie has that. I think people didn't like Jar Jar because he didn't really serve much of purpose. Like, and that's a big thing as a filmmaker that I do understand is like, and a lot of films do this now, where if you have a character that doesn't really serve a purpose, he's just kind of like, it looks like he's shoved into the movie as a character and not as like a reason. Big fans of movies tend to be, to pick that out and be like, well, you didn't need him to be in that movie. He didn't change anything. Like he just was kind of like a tool to get you from point A to point B. And there was no reason for him being in the movie. So that's the big criticism from a lot of fans, Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
But I mean, I thought as a character, he's not that bad. Like he takes away the seriousness from the film.
Sure.
Where maybe, he kind of takes the place of like C-3PO, R2-D2 from like from 4 through 6.
Right.
But their comedy's like so subtle and like they're very useful throughout the movie. Jar Jar's more just like a clown. So
yeah, he's.
I gotta watch it again. It's been so long.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like he seems unnecessary when if you watch any of the behind the scenes of the Phantom Menace, where he was like, this is the first comedic character and he's so important and integral to the story and he's really going to bring everything together, and then he just disappears in 2 and 3.
Yeah.
So like,
and then in like
no
well,
idea.
in 2 he just like randomly becomes like a senator on the board, and you're like, how the fuck did that happen? Like, it's just like a lot of weird. He like creates a lot of plot holes, and
right.
You know how fans are, man.
Exactly.
Like they'll rip into plot holes, and it's so tough.
Yeah. So who's this? I don't know how to say his name. I wish people like. I love Twitch. I think Twitch is cool.
Logustus
says the fight choreographer and swordmaster Bob Anderson made it slow and measured on purpose. It was kind of revolutionary for its age and closer to what a real sword fight would have been like. But yeah, they did not consider the flashy angle. I agree with you. So he's talking about the original in episode 4, the lightsaber duel between Obi and Darth Vader, and I will agree that looking back now, while it's not flashy and it's not modern day lightsaber, it was more realistic and there's more drama out of the Obi-Wan fighting Darth Vader than in Phantom Menace, what everyone points to as the best scene. When Darth Maul is fighting Qui-Gon and a young Obi-Wan. I think there's definitely more drama in episode 4 than in Phantom Menace, but I don't want to spoil it. I mean, hey, but
and also too
viewers,
the fight with Vader and Obi-Wan was a dialogue. I mean, like that wasn't just a fight. Like they're talking throughout the whole fight. So if you have this like intense, flashy, fast-paced fight, there's not really room for a dialogue, and the dialogue that they were having in that fight was actually really important to the film. So
yeah, Karen Wu says, am I high AF? What about Yoda, the droids? So Yoda and the droids were not specifically made by Lucas to be comedic relief. You could argue that C-3PO was maybe the first comedic droid, possibly, but when in all the scenes that I've seen from behind the scenes of Phantom Menace in the documentary that they did, he says, I wrote Jar Jar specifically to be comedic relief. Like that was his purpose. Now other characters, yes, Karen Wu, have been funny, but Jar Jar was going to be he wanted them to be the most popular comedic character made for kids, and the fandom just rejected him. And I think it's because they could tell that he was inauthentic. I think you could see that he was designed to sell toys.
Right.
And
the thing about Yoda, he's such a crucial character.
Such a crucial character.
And his tertiary or his third goal was to make people laugh by the way he spoke. But like he's the wizard. He's the guide throughout the whole film. Him and Obi-Wan, I guess.
Right.
But the thing is, and this is just real quick side. I know we should probably start getting to Florida Man stuff, but anyone in chat, if you guys are interested in any of this stuff, like probably the most influential book I've ever read in my life, that kind of made me actually really interested in filmmaking was Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell. And if you read that book, literally every film you watch, any good film, that almost any epic or any adventure film like Lord of the Rings, Star Wars, any of those type of films, you'll notice they follow Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey arc every time. The characters, everything. It's like incredible. And people in the industry now, people that I work with really closely who are making commercials for like Coke and Walgreens and all those things are still using Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey to like guide people through like these like corporate commercial stories, which is like, and you watch them and you're like, damn, this is better because they use that Hero's Journey. It's really interesting. So
you talk about the corporate world. When I was giving technology demos, so demos of our technology, I had to write a script based on the Hero's Journey. So every customer story that I told, you had to have the problem, the setup, the why, the downfall, how they rose back, and what was it like the success. So every story that I told, every piece of technology that I demonstrated for prospective customers, you had to go back to the Joseph Campbell, the hero story. Now, I talked about this on another podcast. I think the Total Fandom, the Top Fandom podcast. But Dan Harmon, he took the hero's journey and simplified that into the story circle. Have you seen his story circle? He's got six quadrants, and it's very similar. It's based on but he simplified it. And so every episode of Community or Rick and Morty, he structures to that story circle.
Oh, don't get me started on Rick and Morty. Fucking love that show, man.
It's the greatest.
It's so amazing.
It's great.
We could do a whole cast on that show. I
wouldn't mind it. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much, all of us. Karen Wu, Two Tone Karma, Jung Deb, Jolie, my aunt, who is also, I think half of our viewers are family, which is why we keep doing it. So that's awesome. That's great. All right. Well, let's get into the main stories. What do you say here?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Main cam. Here we go.
Two Tone Karma. I never got Rick and Morty for some reason.
Yeah.
It's
some people get it, some people don't.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
I like it for its. I think the thing. It's a funny show, but I like it for its like really creative situations they put these characters in, like really philosophical, like quantum mechanic type situations where like damn, that's so creative, man. What kind of drugs were these guys taking when they wrote this?
It is an acquired taste, but again, think about that story circle. He does it for Rick and Morty. They did it for Justin Roiland started a show. He does it for them, and then also Harmon Quest. So you see elements of all the story circle, which is pretty cool. Yeah. All right, let's try this again. All right, here we go. Welcome back to the Untitled Florida Man Project, the show that brings you the top stories about America's favorite citizen. Let me try that again. Welcome back to the Untitled Florida Man Project, the show that brings you the top stories about America's favorite citizen, the Florida Man. Now, I want to point out here for Karen Wu, who's been every week, she criticizes me on this, and I say that I'm going to change my ways. Well, the Florida Man, I think, should be relabeled the Florida Person. Right?
Yeah.
Because the Florida Man, to me, in my mind, encapsulates both men and women. But you're right. Gender is no longer a construct. So I think it should be the Florida Person. So each week, we dive deep into our favorite headlines made possible by the Sunshine Act of 1976. But in order to navigate the mind of the Florida person, you'll need guides familiar with the swamps, rivers, beaches, theme parks, and homogenous strip malls that litter the landscape of the Sunshine State. To know the Florida person, you have to be a Florida person, which is why I am one of your 3 native Floridians, Roger Roper, and alongside me normally would be my 2 co-hosts, Benny Buffett, but he is on a boat right now out off the shore of Florida. And then, of course, we have Mr. C.
How's it going, guys?
You can subscribe to our Twitch channel for free via your Amazon Prime account. We also want to hear from you in our chat, as well as send us your Twitch bits. Additionally, check out all the great content from Shat Podcasts, such as Shat on TV, Shat the Movies, Shappy Hour, and Squad Goals. That being said, Mr. C, did you have your own personal Florida person moment this week?
I don't really have too much of a specific story, honestly, for a Florida story, but I think just the whole everything that's going on right now in Florida. I mean, it's just hard to talk about Florida without talking about the pandemic. It's just like really hard to really think about anything else but that. I guess I could use this. I got into I try to avoid these as much as I can, but I fail often. But I got into a Facebook debate with somebody who was who was a big conspiracy theorist who just kind of thinks that this whole thing is like a ploy by the Democrats. And I just wanted to the only time I ever really get into these debates is when I'm just like, you can't spread this information to people because there's people that are like gullible enough to believe that. And I was just trying to like very calmly tell him, you need to listen to people who are the experts. Like, that's why they're experts. Like, and I posted something that was just like, America feels right now like the only country that isn't listening to their experts and feels like being compliant is like being a sheep, or it is like a lack of rights. And like, I think that's the problem we're having right now. And don't get me wrong, I love our country. Like, it's a great country, but we need to take advice from other countries and stop being so damn like individualistic and realize that like you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for like the betterment of everybody. And if at some point it comes out that like these things aren't, that maybe the experts were wrong, well, I'm glad that we took the side of caution rather than the side of I just want to go out and drink at a bar.
Right. Which is some of the stories we'll get into. But you're right. Like, I agree that we shouldn't be listening to politicians. We should be listening to doctors. We should be listening to scientists. And you know what? The scientists, and see, I think this is the problem, is that we've become such a soundbite nation. We've become such a Twitter nation. All we care about are the headlines. All we care about is the 140 characters. That our attention deficit has grown so small, or it shrunk so small. Like, we're a TikTok nation. We're a nation of 5-second sound bites.
Yeah.
So we don't want to read the reports. We don't want to listen to doctors. We don't want to listen to scientists who, at times, scientists are going to say, they're always going to err on the side of caution. They're always going to say,
because that's their job.
That's their job. There's no absolutes in science. It's constantly evolving, especially with a new disease like this. But that's not safe to people.
Well, so it bothers me so much. Because like the thing that bothers me more than anything, like I even kind of like, I can sympathize with people who are doubting everything, because there have been situations where the experts have been wrong, which happens. But the thing that bothers me most is like, imagine spending your whole life learning about
one subject.
Pandemics. Like your whole life has come to the moment of like, if there ever is a pandemic, we're going to look to you for your advice. And then giving the advice and everyone being like, nah, you're wrong. Like, that frustrates me more than anything. That would be like me going onto a set and being like, yo, this is how we have to do this. And the whole, the clientele being like, no, I don't think, like, we hired you because you're an expert at what you do, but like, we're just going to do what I think is right based off of like the hour of research I did on Google. Like, that just frustrates me so much, dude. Like, it frustrates me more than anything.
Yeah, it's not even Google. Again, it's like it's harbiters of disinformation, which I struggle with, because in some regards, our freedom of speech is unlike anywhere else in the world. And I think as Americans, we love that. And you're right. I would agree with most people that freedom of speech is extremely important. but in the wrong hands, it can be weaponized. So I look at it like nutrition labels. Like if you at least give people, hey, you're reading this, but it's incorrect. Like this is the real truth of what you're reading. Okay, now you're giving people, I don't know. It's
like if you're not going to listen to the experts, who are you going to listen to? Like,
right.
You don't know. So listen to them. And if they're wrong, they're wrong. Like it happens. But I want to address something in the chat real quick.
Yeah.
Karen Wu says, see, isn't that what the clients actually do? Unfortunately, yes, that is what they actually do sometimes. You have to put them in their place like really early and really quickly so that you're like, listen, I am going to do what you want us to do. You are paying me to do it. But you hired me because I know more than you do. So let's like meet in the middle here. And then also, I'm just going to read this out here. I really like this. Locustus.
Yeah.
Locustus. I heard one of the best arguments about this issue from a local doctor yesterday. We're not going to celebrate Independence Day because people want to go out. But if they keep leaving their houses and refusing to wear masks, we're going to miss Christmas. So like, it's kind of like a very short-sighted thing that's going on right now, I think. And maybe not just our country. I don't know everything that's going on in other countries, but it's short-sighted. Like if we don't figure it out now, like it's just going to keep going. And
it's going to get worse. And so like I look at individuals like my mother who's extremely high risk, and she's trying to travel to Houston she's trying to go to MD Anderson for a very specific procedure for these test trials. And so far she just confirmed that right now her appointment is still on, but you look at the 3 states that are spiking right now, the Florida, the Texas, the Arizonas, it really puts my mom in high risk. And then you look at companies like American, and I just flew American, but I'm not high risk and I wore a mask, and I get that they're disinfecting, they're wearing masks, but it's very scary to someone like my mom who's going there specifically to get treated for something that coronavirus has been known in other people to devastate. And I just don't want her procedure to get pushed back. I don't want her to go alone. You know, what if they prevent my stepfather from going with her? Now she's out there all alone. I can't go with her. My sister can't go with her. How lonely is she going to be? So all of this could have been averted if it wasn't turned into a political issue, but unfortunately it was. And now we're unfortunately put in these situations. And if you're bad about missing 4th of July, imagine how it's going to be when Christmas isn't here and half your family isn't here either.
Right. Yeah. So that's the big thing.
Sad part. But yeah, you talk about what's happening in other countries. We talked about this last week. The EU is reopening borders, but they're disallowing certain countries. Guess who's on that list? Yeah. So we're screwed. We can't. You and I love traveling. We travel almost every year. We can't go to Europe. We can't go to a lot of countries right now. It stinks. It's the worst.
Yeah.
So
we're behind in that set. What's your Florida man story of the?
It's all about selling my stuff. I've been frantically selling everything I own in order to move to Florida. It's funny because we talk about how some people in Arizona and Florida, are going overboard and to the extremes. And yes, some of our stories are based on those, but for the most part, I would think that I wouldn't have no one buying my stuff, but people are still buying and they're doing it really nicely. They're like, hey, do you mind leaving it on the porch? I'll come pick it up. Or in the event that they have to move something heavy, everyone's wearing masks. So I was like, wow, this is really kind of a cool moment that finally maybe as Americans, we had to take that second wave, right? We had to surf that second wave for people to really take this seriously. And now that they are, so I think that's kind of.
You haven't had any people, you haven't had any like no shows or scammers or anything?
No. So one scammer. So the issue that you worry about with selling stuff online and in the private market are big ticket items. If someone shows up and hands me a counterfeit $20 bill, whatever, it's $20 and it's something I didn't care about anyway. But big ticket items like the El Camino and my boat, I'm really worried about. Well, I almost sold my boat. Hey, thanks Two Tone Karma for subscribing. I had a guy in Florida where the boat is with cash and he was ready to buy. And I had a huge fallout with It was at a boat place that was technically on consignment, but I guess I made this side deal with this guy and there were issues and he walked out. Anyway, I got the boat moved and I think I'm going to sell it to him. But the big issue is I might be getting scammed with the Camino. Have you heard about this on Craigslist where people are like, hey, I'll send you a deposit, but I'm going to send my guy, a courier, to pick up the car and he's going to have a certified check. Have you heard about this scam?
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
So apparently, this is a good life lesson for everyone. If anyone says that someone else is going to come pick up a bicycle and it's not that person, you're getting scammed. But here's my problem. I was like, hey guy, send me your business. What this guy is for the Camino, he owns a restoration shop in Illinois. He has a YouTube channel. He has a website. He seems legit. And what he does is he buys vehicles on behalf of individuals that are going to then get it restored at his shop. And he does all the transactions for the people. And then he's almost serves as the intermediary. It sounds on the up and up, but am I getting scammed? What do you guys think? Tell me if I'm getting scammed or not in the chat. What's your thought, C?
So what's the scam there? So like what if that goes through and you ignored that it was a scam, you went through with the deal, what happens to you in that situation, I guess?
So typically the scam is the person shows up to get the bike or collect the bike or whatever you're selling and gives you a forged or a cashier's check that's fraudulent. So you go to your bank and then you try to cash it and there's no money in it. That's the scam.
Why send the courier? Why?
Well, in this particular case, he would transport the vehicle back to Illinois.
Okay, gotcha.
So you have to get someone to load it on a vehicle and drive it back up.
Yeah, two-tone karma. Like in this day and age, why are you? I mean, digital payment, you gotta pay digitally.
Well, so I asked him.
Cash.
I asked him for a deposit. So he's gonna wire me a deposit. Now the thing about wiring is it can still be clawed back within 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
okay.
And I
didn't know that.
And so I talked to him about this. I was like, hey, you can understand my hesitation here. This is a lot of money. It's also, this car's been in my family since 1976. I don't have any use for it, but I want it to go to someone and I don't want to get screwed here. What can you do to ensure that this is all on the up and up? And he's like, I will give you my bank's information so that you can call and you can verify that the check is right. Then I was talking to my mom today. What I think I might do is I won't sign the title, nor will I hand over the keys until I go to Bank of America and they verify the check.
Sure. There you go.
And then
just walk into the bank.
Right. Exactly. So we'll see. Now, I would love to just also bring cash. Like, just bring cash. I mean, it's I'm selling it for $9,000. The two-tone karma, the going rate for the El Camino at the top end is like $21,000, but that's like perfect condition. That's like showroom condition. Just below that is right around 15,000. That means excellent. Everything's working. My Camino that's in, I'll post photos on Twitter. Follow me at Roger_Roper. It's in good condition. It's not excellent. It's not fair. It's in good. It's worth about $10,000 according to Haggerty. And I've got it priced at $975. And I agreed to sell it for $9,000. So I think that's pretty good.
Yeah, that seems, I mean, I have no idea how much those classic cars cost.
Yeah. All Might AA2 says a lot of car restoration places do that. They hunt down the certain vehicles that our customers specifically looking for, then usually up the sales price there to the customer after restoration. So All Might has a good point here. But here's the silly part. He says, and I asked him, I was like, well, why can't the buyer just transfer me the money? Why are you the intermediary? And he says, well, the buyer's out of the country right now. So that has like me.
Sure.
Like, dude, don't tell me stuff like that, because now it makes me like, I see you have great Google reviews on your website. You seem to like be all in the up and up, but then you tell me the buyer's out of the country.
Yeah,
like
that seems weird, man. And like, it's like the risk that you're gonna undertake with the risk of that is just not worth maybe just waiting for the next guy to buy the car.
I know. So I'll call him tomorrow. That's my plan. So that's my That's my personal Florida man moment. So it might be Florida man scammed out of selling his family's car.
You might be the next
I
Florida
might be the
man
next
story.
Florida man. All right. Let's get to our stories of the week. Our first Florida man story. By the way, you can find all these posted on our Twitter account. Just follow at the Florida Man on Twitter immediately after the show, so you can see all these stories for yourself. The first one. Did you see this?
Yeah.
You saw.
I like read the headline. I'm just like,
yeah,
face in hand,
So I think this was on Monday, right? It was a Monday or a Sunday.
It was either. It may have been Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe Monday.
The headline is Florida man yelling white power in video retweeted by President Trump. And the guy ends up he's an ex-Miami-Dade firefighter. The guy who yelled white power. This is him right here. You can see him. This happened in the Villages. A Florida man was caught yelling white power during a pro-Trump golf cart parade, which was retweeted Sunday by the president, then deleted hours later. One day after this, his former department took to Twitter to distance itself from the statement. The video, which this photo is from, shows villagers. So explain to the audience what villagers are.
So the villagers are people who live in the village, which is like a very self-contained community that only allows, from what it seems like, especially upon the research that me and Raj and Benny have done in the past couple of days, is only open to old white people. And like, this seems like a cesspool probably of like really like maybe probably like classically conservative people.
Right.
So this story doesn't surprise me. But essentially, it's that like you could go. I used to do video shoots in that village. I worked for a annuity firm, and I'd go in and I'd interview people about the firm. It's like you drive into this gate, and you kind of go under. It's actually really surreal. You go under these like this like really small road, skinny road, and it's like there's trees like over draping this road.
Right.
You go down, you turn in, and then you go through this gate, and it's like this whole new city. It's kind of like pocketed away from everything else. It's like off the highway, but it's this own self-contained city. You don't have to leave. You can live there. Restaurants, grocery stores, Best Buy, anything you could possibly need. But it's only for retirees, and it's creepy, for the lack of a better word.
It's like very creepy.
It's very creepy. Well,
in order to live in the villages, there's an age requirement. You have to be 55 and up, right? And you cannot have children under a certain age, right? Or you can't have children that live with you at all.
You can't live there at all. If like you can't have children, like if you have a child, you can't move.
Right. It's a childless.
Yeah.
And so it's not even like they have to depend on the surrounding cities to work at those places like Best Buy. But the actual villages, it's this giant, imagine, like you said, a utopia for white retirees, because in our research, we found out that not only is it the STD capital of Florida, because you have all these old people just hooking up without condoms because the childbirth isn't
they don't care
an
anymore.
issue anymore.
Yeah.
But also, the villages is comprised of 98.2% white people.
Yeah.
98.2 retirees that live in the villages in this one city, completely comprised. And we were doing some research, and I think this might be a documentary that we dive into, but it's completely fucking corrupt. Like the people, the commissioners for the villages are in bed with the developers that created the villages and continue to create the villages. So like it's this strange area where all this craziness happens in this self-contained city. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
But yes, they have golf cart parades. Right.
Yeah. And it's like a cesspool of companies and corporations like taking advantage of these people. Like the company that I work for, I will not name them obviously, but after a couple of years after working with them, I found out that like what they were doing was shady as hell and like taking advantage of these people. And like it acts as as a way for the villages to make money, because I guarantee you it costs a lot to live there,
Right.
and it gives business like annuity firms and anyone with like retirement firms, anyone like that who's trying to get money from these people
Right.
to invest. Like it's
it's like a boilerplate. Like they're just preying on these older people,
right,
on their retirement savings, and they're just trying to just milk money away from them, which is really kind of sad. It really is.
It is.
But yeah, no, it's literally accessible. But anyway, so they're having this Trump parade of golf carts, right? There are people that have then lined up. Again, majority of people who live in the villages are Trump voters, according to 2016 records. But there is a group called the Village Democratic Party, or the Democratic Council. They were out there protesting, and this where the video is shown. The person is identified driving in his pro-Trump golf cart parade. Other village residents holding opposing views and signs screamed "racist, racist." Those chants were initially obscured his initial response, but then the video caught him clearly yelling, "Yeah, you got it, white power," with a shake of the fist.
Yeah, and yeah, Black Girl Couch. Yeah, he claims he didn't hear it, which is like,
right.
Come on.
Right, exactly. Well, this is what happens. The social media backlash to the presidential retweet, though it was deleted in 90 minutes, it was swift. Twitter users, by the way, I feel bad for people who live on Twitter. Like, if I didn't have this podcast, if I didn't have this show, I would not be on Twitter. Like, if you have the means to delete social media, delete it. Like, it's just, there's no reason, like, there's no happiness. So you have to imagine people just sit there constantly monitoring other people's tweets so that then they can be outraged. Anyway, the point is that within 90 minutes, Twitter users posted, they doxed the guy, and the White House took it down. A White House spokesperson, according to this is confirmed what Black Girl Couch said the president did not hear the white power chant, but then a white person's, I guess Deere, this guy Deere is now the White House spokesman. He said he did not address why Trump deleted the video, or if he believes white power is a racist phrase. I just love how they just don't answer these things. Like, no, I don't know if white power is a bad thing.
They just don't follow the same rules that literally every other administration has followed in the past 100 years.
Just say we fucked up. Yes, white power is the wrong thing to say, and that's why we deleted the video. Don't this ambiguous, it's got to be a strategy. Like,
well, dude, it has to me, like, my honest opinion is that, like, the administration outside of Trump, like, they're trying their best to, like, maintain their, I guess, professionalism by like serving their position. You know, their job is to protect the president, essentially. But like, there's going to be a point where it's like, dude, this guy is just doing too much. Like, he's just doing too much, and he's making you look bad now. Like, you're clearly lying right now.
But all the guy has to say is, we didn't, Trump didn't watch the video. He didn't hear it. He had a sound off. But obviously, like, white power is bad, and that's why we deleted it. Like, that's all he has to say.
Easy.
That's all he has to say. But he can't even say that because he can't be wrong, and that's his whole shtick. His whole shtick is he can't be wrong. And I hate people. I hate people who can't admit when they've done something incorrectly, or even like what we've all, as a global audience, believed that, the words white power is bad. Like, you shouldn't say that, especially in a position of power, like the president of the fucking United States.
Well, here's the problem, Raj, is that people like me and you, but on the conservative side, are going to be still going to defend him for that. They're still going to do it. Like, I've talked to people about this already, and they've already said things like, he didn't realize that's what he was saying. That's not why he posted it. Like, the media's twisting it. It's like, and I've had this conversation with my girlfriend, and it's like, it's becoming, again, like, I don't want to insult people on any side, but like, it's becoming to the point where, like, he's doing things, and if you still support what he's doing, these actions that he's committing, it's cultish. It's like, it's almost like, what he's doing is wrong, but you're going to agree with him.
Right.
Just because of, like, it's a partisan issue, and you can't disagree with him.
Here's the thing. You could still support Trump and say what he did was wrong, but I still support him. You could just fucking admit that. Admit that the word white power is hurtful. to the majority of people in America, and you can still you can still say, well, he didn't know, and maybe the guy was being sarcastic. You could even say that, but then admit that that was wrong. And I don't care who you support. I would much rather you not support, bigoted individuals, but at least just admit the fact that he said it. But that's the problem, is that people don't even, they're like, no, he didn't really say that. Right. So anyway,
Right.
well, so back to the Villages. Well, the Villages has now descended into almost a civil war. Right. So the Daily Beast, the Daily Beast, since this happened, has reported that Democratic residents in the Villages feel increasingly under siege by Trump supporters who recently plotted, apparently they uncovered a plot where the Republican leaning sides, the Trump supporting people that, did this whole parade, were planning to sabotage Ocean's 11 style the Democrats' plan to hold their very own golf cart rally, I guess, in support of Joe Biden. The president of the Villages Democratic Club tells the Daily Beast that he caught Trump supporting residents plotting online to toss nails in the path of their planned parade. And
Yeah.
they were going to hurl eggs at the Democrats' carts as they drove by.
Oh my God, dude.
Could you imagine this? Could you imagine just a bunch of over 65 individuals resorting to
Like going to war?
This is why people who say, "Oh, you're eventually going to grow up, act mature." I feel like I think you're never more mature than between 30 and maybe 45, and then after that, you descend back into immaturity.
I think at that age too, though, like if you've gone so far, and I've noticed this with people I'm really close with, like family members
Right.
who are conservatives, big Trump supporters. Like I don't even want to say conservatives, but Trump supporters,
Yeah, sure.
who just, I know that they're smart people. They're just so stuck in their ways. And I feel like anyone in the Villages right now, if they're Trump supporters, they're so stuck and their brain is like not pliable anymore to new ideas, right, and like to changing their mind, that it's like, right, I don't know how to deal with this. I'm going to throw nails into the street. Like that's the only way they can deal with like this opposition to their current mindset, is like, I'm gonna blow up the Democrats. That's right. The only thing I could think of.
Well, I gotta tell you, and I don't think she'll ever admit it, but if Bernie stayed in the race, I think my mom would have voted for Bernie. I really do.
Yeah.
In fact, it's cool because I've still got my Bernie signs in my windows here, and I'd say 9 out of 10 people that have come to the house to pick up stuff that I've sold, they're like, "Hey, love the Bernie signs." Like that's the cool thing about Bernie, is like, even if you weren't a Democrat, or you weren't you were a libertarian, or maybe even you were a Republican and conservative, you had to respect Bernie. So it's kind of cool. But I got mom agreed that Medicare for all should be available, and like everyone should, at least in America, you should be able to go to public universities and trade schools at no cost.
Yeah, public healthcare is like the hill I'll die on. Like right. That's the only thing
public healthcare and public education are the two hills I die on.
Yeah, it's just like I have never talked to anyone I've never gotten to any type of debate with anybody where I came out from the other end of that debate being like, right, oh yeah, maybe public healthcare wouldn't be the best issue. It's right. Every time someone coming out on the other end being like, oh, I guess public healthcare wasn't all like what I thought it was, or Bernie's not like as bad as I thought he was. It's all just like, dude, he doesn't want to turn this country into like a communist nation. He just wants like free healthcare and free education.
Every friend that I had that's ever lived overseas, they said Bernie would be a moderate in Europe.
Yes,
he would be a moderate.
Yes. Our left is moderate in Europe.
Exactly. So it's a situation where I think the cool thing that people like about Bernie is at least they know what they're getting. There's an authenticity to it. He's been doing this his entire life. He's like he's the crazy professor that everyone wants to take his class in college. Yeah. Like they're like, man, we just love this guy.
I love this. So Two-Tone Karma goes, I miss the NHS terribly. I've talked to so many people that have lived in England who right. are like, who rave about the NHS, like right. rave about it. And who here raves about our
no.
and Two-Tone, if you want to like talk more about the NHS, I'd love to see it in chat. Like what you like about it and why you feel like it's better than the healthcare system we have here, which is obviously better. But
think about it. You're a small business owner. You work
right.
essentially for yourself. You have a couple people that you work with on the payroll, but essentially you're a small business owner. how expensive is your medical health coverage if you even have a choice?
So it's twofold. So it's my individual healthcare is expensive as hell. It's like $300 a month.
Right.
And that's a lot. Like, I don't care who you are. Like, yeah, some people might not be a lot. To me, that's a lot of money.
Yep.
Secondly, if I ever wanted to have full time, because all my employees right now are part time, I'm not responsible for their healthcare.
Right.
If I ever did want to bring on full time employees, or if I ever got to the point where I need to bring on full time employees, there is such a barrier with the healthcare system we have now because I have to pay so much money
Right.
to create health, to give my employees healthcare.
Sure.
But flip that on its back and you have public healthcare, they're responsible for their own healthcare, like from their tax money.
Sure.
Right. And like, it's such an incentive for small businesses to grow, to not have to worry about employee benefits. Like
any business.
Yeah. And if the government's taking care of that, and I think a lot of people get confused about like, oh, well, it's not free. Well, of course it's not free. Like, we're paying for it with our tax money. But if I had to pay for it I had to pay for 5 people's healthcare from my income, it's not an incentive for me to grow. It's an incentive for me to stay small. Right. So like, it's a misnomer that people say that private healthcare is better for small businesses. It's not. Public healthcare is better for small businesses.
Agreed. And think of the entrepreneurship that it would open up. We pitch in a little bit more, but we get more for our money, and we because everyone's on the same healthcare. The great thing about a single payer healthcare and an NHS style plan is everyone is on. Every doctor accepts it because there's no other options. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. It's Medicare for all. So I don't mean to get too political, but anyway, I think my mom would love it because, again, she's seen. It's like coronavirus. Once you know someone or you've been through that, you're like, fuck. Why don't we have healthcare coverage? So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts, and everyone else does it. We don't, but
or
it won't work though.
No,
because
or paying for testing out of pocket. Like, that's crazy. We shouldn't have to pay for testing out of pocket. Anyway, well,
is that what's going on right now? Are you having to pay out of pocket for testing?
Ashley Schlafly said that she had to pay $800 out of her pocket for testing. That's crazy.
Yeah, I thought that's wrong
because I think the federal subsidies are going to end soon. If I'm not mistaken, I didn't read beyond the headline, but I know in Florida they're doing extensive testing, but that is not. But I believe that is federally funded as well, or at least there's some subsidies from the federal government. If it falls back on the states, and the states aren't open and aren't getting money, like, that's going to fall on the consumers. That's going to fall on us.
Yeah, I was unsure. I mean, I was under the impression that the government was assisting hospitals with payments for people who are uninsured who are getting tested. Right. I mean, that's how it should be. I think that was like one of the only things I applauded Trump for was I'm pretty sure within the CARES Act that he was given, and a lot of conservatives are like saying things like, well, hospitals are getting paid to report COVID deaths. And it's like, yeah, because they're not getting paid for those things because uninsured people aren't paying for their COVID testing.
Right.
And of course the government's going to pay for that. It's a pandemic. Like, why would you make someone pay for us pay for the pandemic? So it's crazy, man. It's
crazy. It's nuts. Well, I think if you go donate blood here in Arizona in certain places, it's not as extensive as getting the actual swab test, but they can at least tell if you have the antibodies or something like that. Anyway.
Yeah, there's two different tests. You can test for antibodies and you can test if you have it currently. So
that's nuts. Well, speaking of that COVID testing, did you see this? Well, all Florida beaches are closed for July 4th as of Monday. Well, it's certain areas.
Right.
As of Monday, the state registered more than 146,000 cases and almost 3,500 deaths since the pandemic began. Late last week, Florida announced record number of case jumps with a surge of almost 43,000 people testing positive from June 24th to 29th. Data from the Florida Department of Health shows the highest single day total on Saturday was Saturday with more than 9,500 cases. On Monday, they reported 5,266 new cases. Since the pandemic began, the total number of cases recorded in the state is just under 150,000, with 143,850 residents affected. Monday's percentage of people testing positive rose to 7.65%, a percentage that hasn't been that high since May 7th, when it was 7.87%. So almost 8% of people getting tested are coming up positive. That's crazy. The total number of cases has more than doubled from 61,488 when Governor DeSantis issued phase 2, which means he reopened, like bars and gyms and restaurants. So anyway, so the biggest spikes right now are in South Florida. So Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach, Monroe, and Martin County are the closed beaches. So I read this and I was like, well, Florida's taking the right steps. Like, they're closing the beaches, but those are the only counties that are closed. The rest, the Panhandle, the West Coast, the Southwest Coast, the East Coast, all open, baby. How are not all these other counties closing?
I don't know. I think it has a lot to do with the mayors in Florida, I think are really kind of shackled to the politics of the situation.
Right.
That's what it seems like to me. They don't want the people. There's so many. It's just unfortunate. There's so many people that don't want to obey the safety protocols that we're releasing. And something I want to say too, Florida did something terrible, obviously, but what they did do is they conducted an experiment. They said, well, let's see what happens if we don't follow any of the rules.
Sure.
Maybe if we don't follow the rules, we'll uncover this grand conspiracy that we need to all stay inside and wear our masks. And the experiment was successful. And it showed that if you go out and you take off all of these restrictions, then the numbers are going to go up. The latest argument, I've heard, has been, well, the death count isn't high, and it's been a week. Wait 2 weeks. It's going to be really high. People don't just get the virus and die right away. So just wait a couple weeks. And
Captain Tyler
your answer.
Captain Tyler says, I have my right to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. And that's what people wanted. They had to get their hot sauces, which is crazy. But yeah, no, this death count is massive, Karen Wu, and it's very unfortunate. But are you surprised that more counties, I know that it has become a political issue, and I know in states like Florida, Arizona, Texas are heavily reliant on tourist dollars. So and in beaches, open air, I know when I was in Florida and I went to the beach, there was a certain subset of, I'd say the majority of people were playing loose and fast with social distancing, but I think there's people just think that, if I'm outside, I'm not going to catch it.
No, and that's obviously not true. But
right, exactly.
I don't know. The small number of counties that have closed beaches is kind of surprising to me. I just think that the problem right now is our government is so influenced by social media that
we're a social media.
They are seeing that the population doesn't want to be stuck in. Dude, I just watched this video of this guy going into some sort of town hall meeting, trying to rip into these.
Save it. It's our story. It's one of our stories.
Okay.
It's one of our stories.
God. I was cringing the whole time, and it was so bad.
Well, in addition to the beaches, Florida suspended all drinking at bars. Less than hours after the Florida Department of Health reported all those numbers that I just read off, they immediately announced the suspension of drinking alcohol in bars. Secretary Halsey Beshears of the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation made the announcement on Twitter saying, effective immediately, the department is suspending on-premises consumption of alcohol at bars statewide. Now, you and I and Benny were blasted on Twitter because I think Benny was like, I just need my beer. He went out to one of the bar that was shut down in Jacksonville. Have you guys since retracted your fast and loose ways of going out to the bars?
Yeah. It's it was, dude. The thing is, it's important to be. Let me put it this way: I have a guy I work with really closely.
Yeah.
We share an office. He owns his business. I own my business. We split office costs.
Yeah.
He, from the beginning, was like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not leaving my house. I'm being responsible. I'm staying home.
Yeah.
My first impression of him saying that was, that's a little intense, right?
Yeah.
I sit here now humbled as
right.
very wrong. But I don't want to defend myself because I shouldn't be, but there are people out there that, not speaking for myself, but other people out there that just, I don't think they've seen the gravity of the situation yet. And it's kind of hard to like look at numbers and have like an emotional response to that, to look like, hey, 10,000 people in the past week have gotten sick.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's sad that that number doesn't make you retract your previous opinion, and people have to change you have to be able to change your mind about things.
So apparently but again, it's like the beaches. Does the regulation, is this more of is this trying to save face for the people that allowed Florida to just go open and contract all the spread of the virus? Because the establishment, this only applies to those that derive more than 50% of their gross revenue from the sale of alcoholic beverages. The rest, like if you're considered a restaurant and you don't derive more than 50%, you can still sell alcohol. Or if you are one of those that do derive more than 50%, you can still sell alcohol. They just can't drink it on the premise. So I guess they can sell,
which is like a stupid.
It's weird. Yeah. So people are still going out of the house. How is that?
It's so easy. You can still go to restaurants. I mean, a lot of restaurants in Orlando are just closed. I mean, they're doing the responsible thing.
Right.
And like we said in the last podcast, like the problem right now is the state is putting it on the private industries to close instead of putting like a state mandate in. Like it needs to be a state mandate. Like you shouldn't be leaving it up to like these private industries to pick between profit and safety, because they're going to pick profit. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how it is. But like, the thing right now is like, it's so easy to get around these stupid like loopholes. Like, oh, you just can't go to a bar, but you can go to a restaurant and drink.
Right.
It's just,
there's no consistency. And I think that's the problem. That's why people get frustrated. That's why people go to these meetings and say, I'm not going to be muzzled, is because there's inconsistency. So I can go to one place and they don't care if I wear a mask or not, but I go to another place and they're like, you can't enter unless you have a mask. Like, I mean, the video that we showed of the Walmart, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's just, I don't know, man. Like, again,
you should see my gym, man. There's like no one there because you have to wear a mask.
Yeah.
Like,
you have to
wear
no one
wants to wear a fucking mask.
They just shut down gyms and bars here last week, or no, I'm sorry, yesterday, as of 8 p.m. yesterday in Arizona. So
there's still some gyms here that are just allowing you to.
There were Twitter reports and Facebook reports of some gyms saying, we don't care what Governor Ducey said. You don't have to wear a mask when you work out, which I just think, like, of all the places that you're going to catch something gross,
dude,
like gym, like, first of all, the ringworm, all the things that you can catch at, you know.
Well, even just like, so just a really quick, like, LA Fitness is doing my LA Fitness is doing a bang up job. Cause like they're making us wear masks, and then you can't, like, if you're caught without, they give you like a little hand sanitizer sprayer thing that you have to spray your bench down and whatever you're working out on every time after you leave. Mm-hmm. And I was like, what would they do if you didn't do it? I mean, everyone's doing it seems like, from what I've noticed, but I did catch someone today not doing it. And there's like a woman standing in the middle of the gym, like scoping out these people. And she goes up, and if she finds someone that doesn't do it, she goes behind them and cleans off the bench or the machine. Right. And it's like, they're taking such a risk, because I've overheard people talking in the gym, like, I might go join this other gym because they're not making me wear a mask.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper. And it's like the risk that they're taking in order to kind of, for the betterment of the rest of the city is like, it's really impressive. It's like I never thought I'd be proud to be part of a gym.
Let me ask you this. Like, wouldn't you love to go to a gym where they hired people specific? It would be like a concierge service. Have you ever lived in an apartment complex where they had trash concierge service? Where you didn't have to take your trash. Let's say you live on the third floor.
We have that.
You guys have that, right?
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if there was something like this where, let's say you paid $50 a month and they were like, hey, your dues are going to go up $5 more a month, but you no longer have to wipe stuff down. We're going to take care of all that for you. So there are like little helpers that go around and just wipe and desanitize everything. So you're like confident in knowing that when I'm going to use this bench, it's been properly sanitized.
Right.
And I'll pay $5 a month more for that.
Yeah, dude. And I think they've hired, I'm pretty sure LA Fitness has hired people just to do that.
It's nice.
Yeah.
That's
just
nice.
to do that. That's nice.
Well, I mean, again,
I'm impressed.
DeSantis, the governor of Florida, is putting people back in quarantine. But have you heard this story? Did you see this story? A Florida man was quarantined alone with hundreds of parrots, but says it wasn't by choice. A Florida man of I don't know if I'm saying this right, the Zaxby Bird Sanctuary. He's been trapped for 3 months taking care of these parrots due to a property dispute. He recently wrote an email to the Tampa Bay Times with SOS in the subject line. He says, hello, my name is Mahid, and I am a prisoner in my own property with over 200 parrots, no way to get in or out. So for the last 3 months, the man has been alone and trapped because of a property dispute that's forcing him to stay on the 5-acre bird sanctuary in Tampa. The sanctuary apparently is surrounded by completely by other people's land. And he's been the only person that's been taking care of these hundreds of parrots and other wild birds. Before the COVID-19 lockdown, he said he had, tons of volunteers to come that would come and help out and whatnot. He writes, I get up before the sun and all day I'm cleaning, fixing cages, feeding parrots until night. At night, I answer a few emails from people who want me to take their parrots, but I can't take any parrots anymore. I'm only one person. Like, he's going crazy. Because people keep dumping their parrots.
Is he stuck there because he refuses to leave the parrots by themselves, or because
I think that's part of it. I think that's part of it. But like people, it's like, you know how Florida is with their exotic animals, like with alligators, and we have a huge python problem down in the Everglades. It's destroying the Everglades because people buy these exotic animals and then they get bored with them and they just dump them. Well, there are sanctuaries for this, but this poor guy, I guess his land is surrounded, so he can't get in or out. But people keep bringing parrots to him. I don't know.
That's very odd. I'm very confused.
But apparently this guy just loves parrots, and so he created this. But could you imagine being the only one to care for all these birds?
There's a lot of parrots, man.
And then people keep emailing you. You're like, all I do is just feed parrots. Parrots have become my life.
Dude, did you have birds when you were growing up?
We had a cockatiel, and
yeah, same.
And we nursed a couple ducks back to health. And let me tell you, ducks are the most disgusting creatures in the world.
I was going to say cockatiels are pretty gross. I was responsible for like cleaning out their water and like their food and all that stuff. It's nasty, man.
It's not good. It's not good. So I feel bad because, we've joked at times that just go back to quarantine. Just stay inside. Stay in your house. Could you imagine if your house was a parrot sanctuary and you were just there?
At least they can talk back to you, right?
Maybe. Dude, how many of the parrots have they're just like, fuck the quarantine. But he says he and the parrots have been pretty much eating bananas and bamboo shoots while he grows, which he grows on the property. He says he has also some rice on hand and sleeps in the office. Someone go and save this poor man in Tampa.
Is he saved yet? How long ago? When was this posted?
This was Monday. This is Monday. How crazy is that?
Yeah, I guess. What if do you think, Raj, if you were attacked by 200 parrots, like they ganged up on you, as Karen was saying,
right? Do
you have a chance?
I think I would fight off the first 15, and then I would just lay down and take it. It's like getting my biggest fear, because I would love to start surfing again, but I'm deathly afraid of sharks. And Daytona Beach is infamous for having bull shark attacks. They're not the big bull shark attacks; they're juveniles. They're like the baby sharks that live in the brackish water because it's a breeding ground, and then they go out into the ocean.
Yeah. Go to Ormond anyways. Daytona's nuts. You don't want to surf in Daytona.
No, I'd surf Ormond. Definitely. I'd surf Ormond. But my biggest fear is shark attacks. I feel like I would fight off the shark for the first 30 seconds, and then I would just lay down like a gazelle and in a cheetah's mouth and just let him I'd succumb to him. Take me away. I don't know. Well,
yeah, I didn't know you wanted to get back, and I didn't know you want to start surfing, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna get a longboard, do some old man surfing.
Yeah, you got to get those big, those long foam boards. That's what I learned on when I was younger. It's just like too easy.
Well, I used to surf, but I haven't surfed in 15 years. I haven't been up on a board.
Yeah.
So
you'll get it. Comes back to you.
I'll get a nice old man board and just cruise. They're not big waves in Ormond anyway, so.
They're perfect, man. It's perfect. Like when because I mean Flagler obviously. Yeah. That's where I learned, and then I went to Nicaragua on a surf trip way prematurely. Like I was not ready for that, and I almost drowned. It was because the waves on East Coast Florida are just not the same as.
Well, our next story, we talk about the people being trapped in quarantine. Well, this was the viral video you were talking about. The Florida man flips out at county commission over mask mandate, says, "I will not be muzzled like a mad dog." If you've seen
Yeah, this guy. This is the guy. This is who
This
I
is him right
watched.
here. This is him.
Freaking
First
nuts,
of all,
man.
if there's any guy that deserves to be muzzled, it's this guy. Look at him. First of all, that's a great beard. But secondly, doesn't this guy, I mean, he looks like he's going to do something not
Dude,
good.
he looks
like a mad dog.
he looks like he came off the streets.
Right. Well, the Florida man, he launched into a rant during a county commission meeting about mandating masks to fight the coronavirus. He said, "We are being lied to. Our freedoms are being taken over, and I will not be muzzled by like a mad dog, and I will not have my health destroyed because you idiots can't read the truth." So here's the thing that I don't understand about this quote. How is his health going to be destroyed if he just stays inside and wears a mask?
Because he thinks that the experts are trying to trick him.
So he thinks that all this is fake. It's all Alex Jones.
Oh yeah. It's very Alex Jones.
All right.
I'm surprised Alex Jones has not been like in the center spotlight right now talking about this. That's actually shocking that we haven't heard more from Alex Jones.
You know why we haven't heard from Alex Jones? Is because he's been deplatformed.
He's been deplatformed.
When you I was watching that Netflix documentary on the alt-right, and
I haven't seen that yet.
It's a good documentary, but they you've seen the clips of like the shortly before we got involved in World War II, there was the American Nazis that held the rally in Madison Square Garden.
I have not seen that.
You've not seen that. Okay, so there was a rally held by American Nazis that was held in Madison Garden. It's not one of our prettiest times in our American history, but at the time, they went to the largest newspapers in the world and they said, "Listen, don't cover these guys. Just don't cover them. If you don't cover them, if you don't give them a platform, people won't know they exist, and the majority of people aren't Nazis."
Right.
And so there was a pact made by the major people that we were like, "Yeah, we're not going to do that. We're not going to cover you."
What's the name of that doc, Raj?
The alt-right, The Rage of the Alt-Right, I think is
on Netflix.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy goes on to say, this Florida man, he goes, "You go along with the lies that the people who are trying to take down our freedoms and destroy our country. This is sick. You should ought to be ashamed of yourself for being part of this, and I will not be muzzled. It is time for us to stand up to our freedoms. If we stand back and let these pieces of crap handle our freedoms, we will have nothing left. In fact, we will all be dead."
Did you know what these rants remind me of? Like, do you remember when you were a kid and like you knew that like you did something wrong, or like you were a teenager and you did something wrong, or like you were wrong in what you were saying, but you just like went ballistic because like you wanted to get your way and you're just being like a spoiled brat? That's what this reminds me of.
Oh,
like,
we're a country of spoiled brats.
Like you just like know that like it's better to just do what they're telling you to do, but you're like, I don't give a shit. Like I just want to do what I want to do. So I'm just gonna like throw a fit and like yell louder than them, and hopefully everyone's gonna listen to me.
Exactly.
It's terrible.
Exactly. But listen, and I don't want this to be taken the wrong way, but there's a part of me that admires this guy's gumption. You know what I mean? Because there are countries out there that are literally restricting freedoms. And so when it truly comes to the day where we have an authoritarian government that's going to come in and try and take away our freedoms, I hope this guy is will attend the meeting, because we're going to need him on our side. But dude, put on a mask. You know what I mean?
Put it on.
Just put it on.
Even if you think they're wrong.
Even if you think they're wrong, just put it on. Just do it. Well, I guess one thing that positive that also I can say is at least this guy is doing the steps necessary to voice his own concerns with the issue, because this next and final Florida man story, he took things literally into his own hands. This South Florida man exposed himself at a gift shop after being asked to put on a face mask. So he kind of subverted the entire political process of going in front of your county commissioners. And he's like, "Listen, I'm just going to take action upon myself." This 37-year-old Florida man was arrested Thursday morning after he's exposed himself at a gift shop in Islamorada after being asked to put on a face mask. According to Monroe County Sheriff's Office, he refused to put on a face mask when asked to do so by an employee at the Theater of the Sea gift shop, and began speaking vulgarly, particularly to the women in the room, including one minor girl, about his genitals, their bodies, and pornography. He then pulled down his shorts and exposed himself to everyone who was inside the gift shop while continuing to use vulgar language towards them. A county deputy stopped him.
Wait, Raj. Sorry, I got to interrupt you because this is like so relevant to our podcast.
Right.
You saw what you skipped over, right?
No, what I skipped over.
Linhart said Duval, then pulled down and exposed himself to everyone. Oh my god! I should have read this.
He yelled. So for anyway. First of all, Al Murata.
That's amazing.
First of all, Al Murata, and again, I keep forgetting to get a map of Florida. Al Murata is nowhere near Jacksonville, where Duval County is. So Al Murata is down in the Keys, right? It's down in the bottom, the lower half of the state. It's past Miami. It's south of Miami. So this guy is in a gift shop, like one of those just tacky gift shops, is asked to put on a mask, says, "I'm not going to," yells Duval, and then pulls down his pants. That's great.
Yeah, for reference, that's what I say before I come on every podcast. So
it's a rally cry. I think
I really support nothing he did except.
Well, deputies stopped him a short distance away and took him into custody. He said that he exposed himself after employees refused to let him use the bathroom. So that's his excuse. His excuse is that he was going to use the bathroom. Who cares? If you're going to use the bathroom, wear a mask, right? He also admitted that there were several children present at the time. He faces charges of indecent exposure, disorderly conduct, and driving with a suspended license.
Damn.
So, go Jags.
Yeah, go Jags. Yeah, Gaz Beard Al. Go Jags. Yes. Raj, we're getting some stuff in chat here.
What are we getting?
Black Girl Couch says, I see we made a U-turn in the story. And Karen Wu, no, he likes the Jags. He is one of mine, but I can't support anything he did outside of that. Black Girl Couch goes, but I still think it started where he asked to wear a mask. I guess Raj will admire him too for taking a stand. I don't think that's what Raj meant.
No, I'm not taking. I don't. Listen, if you go into a place of business, you're in their house. It's like when you go and visit someone else and they like ask you to take off your shoes. You're like, oh, all right, I'll take off my shoes. So it's like in business. Like if you don't want to wear a mask and you're inside your house or you're around your family and you don't want to wear a mask, that's fine. When you start exposing other people or you go into someone else's place of business, that's rude. So Black Girl Couch.
Well, he said he admired his gumption, there was a hint of sarcasm within his voice when he said that.
Yeah.
This is still a Florida man podcast. Yeah, it's not.
We're being silly with the thing. Yeah, he took action into his own hands and said, "I'm not going to wear a mask," and literally pulled down his pants. So anyway, that is the fact that he yelled Duval before he did it is.
I can't believe you almost skipped over that, though.
Yeah, I'm so sorry.
Very frustrating.
Well, that's why I left it for the final one, because it was so funny, and we got on so many fun tangents today. So that's our Jags fan. I love them. So
it's gonna be an interesting year for us.
Yeah, same with the Dolphins if we ever play. Did you see the Major League Baseball, the minor leagues shut down? They're not playing this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
minor leagues. Did Major League hasn't made a decision yet?
They're doing 60 game season was the last I saw on it. Listen, I don't care about baseball. I'm trying to sell like my baseball collectibles now. No one cares.
I never got into baseball. I couldn't do it. I don't know.
Baseball's a fun game to.
So slow.
Yeah, it's a fun game to play. Not so much to watch.
Yeah. I just don't know how the NFL is going to do it, man. It's like my whole heart wants them to start the league, but I don't know how. Like in the current what's going on right now, I just don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it safely.
Selfishly, I want it just because I love fantasy football. I know that I think you were going to join one of our leagues this year, or I know we're in a league.
I'm on and off with fantasy. It takes too much
of your time.
It can ruin my Jags will win and then I'll lose all 3 fantasy games and I'll be pissed. I don't want that. Wow, dude, Jags fan in UK, Gaz Beard all. Oh, wow, dude, hell yeah.
It's because the Jags play there.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Duval, let's go, baby.
Let's go,
dude. It's just it's so nice to see other Jags fans. It's not like being an Eagles fan or a Cowboys fan where the fans are all around the world. If you find a Jag fan, it's like finding gold, man. It's great.
That's
Diamond in the rough.
That's how I feel about Dolphins fans. I mean, it's gonna be cool going back and at least because you would say that the Dolphins are the most popular team in Florida from Florida team perspective.
I think in terms of like population and like, per capita, like how many people in Florida are Dolphins fans versus Jags versus Bucks. I think it's
I think the Dolphins,
blow them out.
are one, then Tampa Bay, then and it's just
they're the oldest, yeah.
But yeah, I think Tua is going to do well.
Interesting, yeah.
But I'm all about Fitzmagic. I love Fitzmagic.
No.
I love him. Well, anyway, that concludes this week's episode of the Untitled Florida Men Project, the Florida Person Project. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to follow us on social media. Our handles are right up there. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. On behalf, by the way, make sure you subscribe to Shout on TV, Shout the Movies, our Twitch channel. You can do that through Amazon Prime. Tomorrow is Squad Goals with Gene and Ashley. I think they're doing Rocket League tomorrow. Gene, you can confirm that in the chat, or Ashley. So and then they also just did a Discord channel, and you know how like we talked about like TikTok? Have you joined Discord?
Yes, I'm part of Discord.
Do you like Discord?
Well, depends. Like, what do you use it for?
I've only joined a handful of servers.
Yeah, I use it for like video games. So
use it for video games. Okay.
Yeah, like if I'm like doing like anything online, like it's like a part of a league or something.
Right.
I'll join a Discord so you can like organize games and stuff.
Right. So I used it for the Division 2. That's what I joined it for. And then also, they just shut down Chapo Trap House on Reddit. So that's now its own Discord.
What? I watch a lot of like political debate on like Bosch, Destiny, stuff like that.
Yeah.
What is Chapo Trap House?
Chapo Trap House is a podcast. It's a leftist podcast. They were big Bernie supporters, big activists but
they got deplatformed.
For
what?
They deplatformed the Donald on Reddit, and so you can't.
But wasn't that taken over by the right, anyways?
Yeah, you can't take down one without the other. So Chapo Trap House was like where people that were extremists, Donald, they didn't want to fuck with Chapo Trap House. Chapo Trap House are like, it's like the activist arm of the left, but also they just make fun of, like, they're brilliant trolls online. So like great memes come out of there.
They're trolls. They're not like legit. Like,
no, they're legit as well, but they're just wickedly funny. Like they're extremely intelligent. And then they just, but there's an element to the podcast anyway. So they got deplatformed. All the different subs that were, so now they're on Discord. So last night I joined the Discord, and it's so crazy. But anyway, I guess the point that so Gene wanted to create a Discord for us. So I guess if like, the way that I understand Discord is that it's like an ongoing chat, and then you can have like different channels within the server.
Yeah. So it's like, think of it. Yeah. It's like hashtags. So like, you're in a chat, and then it's broken down into whatever, an infinite amount of, like it's almost like a subreddit, but it's like sub conversations that you could click and go into.
Right.
No, it's cool. I mean, like I've never used it in like via like for podcasting or YouTube or anything like that, but it's useful, and it's really like efficient and stuff. But yeah,
it's like a giant ass chat room. Well, anyway, I just used the bot. I used Nightbot. Good bot. You can join the Discord link there if you haven't. Join the inner circle of chat, I think is what Gene wants to call it. So join the inner. I think there's a Florida Man channel. To be quite honest, I'll have to check it out. I just don't have enough time in my day to be in a constant chat. We talked about this with the giant chat rooms. Like,
does chat ever want to get involved into like political conversation, or no?
We try not to. I think this is our outlet for the podcast. Like, we made a rule long ago that for the Chat on TV, like the Westworlds, the TVs, the movies, the last thing we want to become is political. It's a little bit loose and fast on Twitch. I know that we've talked a lot about coronavirus. We talked a lot about like the civil war that's happening in the villages. I think it's a little bit more acceptable because it's, we don't have as big of an audience here. But yeah, when it comes to the podcast, we completely stay away from political topics.
Right on. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's fair. I mean, I personally don't like talking about it, even on here. Like, I just want to have.
Yeah.
I just want.
I mean, yeah. I mean, and I'm not speaking for Shad. I'm a guest essentially, but I love it. I mean, it's like it's a new weird like freaky hobby of mine. It's just like
listen,
discuss it.
You got to check out Chapo Trap House on Discord. I'll send you the link. It's fun. Just the people are just silly. They're just
Hey, check out check. I'm gonna put it in the chat, but check out Vosh, dude. You would love him.
Okay, cool.
He's been on Chapo Trap House before. I just didn't know who they were essentially, but
Black Girl Couch. I apologize for the 47 minutes of political conversation again.
That's my fault. That's my fault. I always try to lean it that way because that's what I like to talk about. That's my fault. Don't blame Raj.
I'm just disappointed because all the fun stories when we go back to quarantine, there's not going to be any good fun stories coming out of Florida, man. So we're going to be hurting. We're going to be
less political when quarantine's over.
You got it. Well, again, subscribe to all the channels. Squad goals tomorrow. I wish I knew I wish I knew the schedule. Gene, put the schedule in there. I think it's 9:30 Eastern, and then they do Shappy Hour at 9 or 9:30 as well. But anyway, the schedule's on the Twitch. Check it out. That's our Discord. Thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Join us next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully, Ben will be back from the ocean. Take care. Good night and good luck. 9:30 Eastern. That's it. Awesome. Thanks, Gene.